What is up, guys? I got to do a full interview with Josh Hill, one half of the Hill brothers. He's a Supercross winner, a free rider. He has changed the game. We talked about that. We talked about him throwing Matthes out of a monster party. We talked for about 40 minutes, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. But he talked about his injury, preparing for the X Games. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. It was a pleasure to talk with the great Josh Hill, and he was kind enough to let me use a lot of really cool footage, so you're going to have some really cool footage overlaying on this video, so you'll definitely want to watch this one instead of just listening to it while you drive. Thank you to my sponsors, Nano Extreme. Head over to Nano Extreme, use code Cooksey for free shipping. Coach Rob, Complete Racing Solutions, get your energy fuel over there. Ride Strapped, goggles, glasses, shirts, ridestrapped.com. Alias MX, their new gear's dropping soon, aliasmx.com. And Precision Transport, that's pretransport.com. Best shipping company out there.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
So guys, I have one of the best two-wheel dirt bike riders ever. He's one half of the Hill brothers. Josh, what's happening?
What's going on? Thanks for that intro. I don't know if it's quite correct, but I appreciate it.
Dude, it's so correct. I had my girlfriend with me at the Arena Cross this year, and I go, watch him. She's like, wow, he just looks different on the bike. I know. It's like, it's poetry. Whatever, watching you and your brother ride, I don't know what it is or what natural talent you guys have. You just make it look good.
I appreciate it. I think that definitely myself, I just really love riding. Like my whole racing career has kind of just been a way to keep my dirt bike habit going. You know, I love riding so much that even if I'm getting paid or not getting paid, I'm going to be riding. So
yeah, it's crazy. Some of the things you do on your own, not getting paid, just some of the risks you take. I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's crazy.
If you want to be good at anything, you got to do it all the time. So if I want to be good at hitting big jumps, that means that, you know, my practice track looks a little differently than most people's. You know, I think I get the most rush out of scaring myself a little bit, and then improving my skill set in the process is pretty fun.
Well, you're doing a Road to the Big Hill Jam on your YouTube. My hands got sweaty watching you hit some of those jumps, that drop off, and then there was a peak. You went straight up that spine. Dear God, I couldn't believe it.
What's crazy is like that spine. I think Mike Metzger was the first person to do that. I could be wrong. I know Ronnie Renner has hit it, and I think he did it in one of his Real Moto videos. But I'm pretty sure Mike Metzger hit that on a two-stroke back in the like early 2000s. And it's something like you'll see the videos and stuff, and when you get there in person, it just doesn't do it justice. When I seen it, I was like, wow, that's that. Like things like 40 feet tall and vertical, and it's cliffs on all sides. So that was cool to just kind of tick that one off the box. You know, sometimes you'll see these jumps that guys have done before you, and sometimes they're so big that you're like, do I even need to risk it to do something that somebody else has already done here? Or, you know, but that one was just too fun. I had to go for it.
Well, in the camera angle that you got leading up to it, you show exactly how much speed you have. And I'm looking at it going, oh my God, if he over jumps this, he dies, because that's so high up there. And it's not like you're going forward. You're going straight up and straight down.
Yeah. I did it on the electric bike, and people don't realize it's actually more difficult to time jumps with the electric bike because you have such a range of how far your bike can go. So when you're just doing a big jump like that, you know, it's not like a 450 or something where you'd be like, okay, this is second or this is third, and once I hit the bottom right here, I can pretty much hold it wicked, and you know, your gears run out, so your distance that you can go is only so far. But on that electric bike, it's like first through fifth gear, all in one. But that's what kind of makes it so cool for whipping and all that kind of stuff too, because you can just, you know, crank the thing wide open, and even if you're about to endo, it'll actually pull itself out. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't taken it to the level that like Patrick Evans and Thomas Unis and Wyo are taking the whips, but watching those guys whip on those e-bikes is pretty insane.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the Big Hill Jam in a little bit, but you got a best whip there, and you're going to have those electric bike guys. They're coming out, right?
Yeah, so it's a bummer because X Games, I think they're not allowing them this year, from what I understand. So this is kind of, you know, we're not X Games. We're trying to grow it and make it as big as it can possibly be. And we get a lot of those X Games names, but we have a little bit more freedom to do some stuff. So we'll have e-bikes in the best whip contest against the 450s. And then same thing in the racing side. I think that in the whip, it's proven that these guys get on the e-bike and they actually improve their whips, whether that's them just buckling down and focusing on it harder, or if there's, I think there could be a little bit something to the gyro effect with not having a gearbox, not having all that rotating mass. I think that can help you on a ramp, but I think the playing field on the track that I'm creating for racing is going to be pretty dang even between like a 450 or a CR 500 versus one of these electric bikes. It's a true open pro class, so it should be fun.
And it's run what you brung. If you have a CR 500 and you can compete, you can bring it out, right?
Yeah, if you got a 300 or you got a Yamaha 250 board out, if you got a CR 500, if you got a Vertimati, 690 that you tricked out, bring it out. I mean, I think that it's cool to have a race, and all of us as pros kind of understand that there's really no major benefits. You can make these bikes 100 horsepower, and there's probably not going to translate to better lap times. But hopefully this can be a good training, proving ground if somebody has something they think works. And I think the track will every bike will have its area that it'll really work. We got some big whoops, so that'll kind of, I think, even the playing field between the 450s and the Starks and all that. So it's going to be fun.
Well, before we get into your career, where can people find information about the Big Hill Jam?
Oh, you just go to bighilljam.com or check us out on Instagram, Big Hill Jam. We have tickets online there. That's just to secure a spot. We may get to a point where camping might get a little limited. So getting your spot online early is great, but we're going to do, if you come in day of, decide you want to come out, come on out.
So any pro racer can just show up and race and they're going to make good money, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's right now. Mountain Motorsports has already contributed $10,000 to the purse for that class alone. We're going to do 100% payback beyond that. And then any other sponsors that are coming in between now and then, we're rolling the money into the purse. I think last I checked, we're getting up there. Last year we ended up giving away 52,000, something around there, between all the classes. And then this year, I mean, I'm hoping we can just keep growing it. So when sponsorship dollars come in, we're putting them into the purse.
Well, I like your event so much because it caters. It's like by riders, for riders. You get it. I'm sure the event needs to make a little bit of money, but you also are paying back to the guys that are taking the risks. I think it's pretty cool, man. So thank you for that.
Man, it's just it's a fun thing. It definitely isn't worth, money wise, the amount of work that goes into it. And if we can, if I can do my job and get a bunch of spectators here, then I can break even and pay the people around me. And that's what it's about, man. I got too many good friends to come out here. I can't beg all my buddies year after year, hey, come out to my event, and then, shaft them on pay. So I do my best to make it fair and make it to where everybody comes out, has a fun weekend riding, meeting fans, and leaves with a smile and a few extra bucks in their pocket.
Yeah, and you've been at this game for a long time. And I had some questions. I asked you if I could run through a little bit of your career. So we'll start with your rookie season. You came out on the 250. You did okay, but for some reason you wanted to move to a 450 in your second season, right?
Yeah, so the first year I went to 2006, I did the last four nationals: Millville, Binghamton, Steel City, and Glen Helen. And I got second place in my third moto, and that was pretty good, straight out of amateurs. Ended up third overall on the day. Had some good motos the rest of the season. Going into Supercross the following year, I broke my hand at the first round on the first lap of the heat race. And so I had an injury all throughout the first year, but I was still able to, in 2 weeks, I got on the podium, won some heat races, got fourths. I mean, I did good. I got third in the championship. I think by most rookie standards, it was, it's not Cole Davies, but, it's pretty good. But outdoors, we just couldn't get the bike to work. I think I DNF'd something like 10 of the first 18 motos or something that I was in. And it was the first year that factory Yamaha tried to bring a 250 program in-house. And, at that time, the motor guys were really two-stroke experts at that time. And I think we just kind of didn't quite anticipate the 250 power level between, like Mitch, Factory Connection, KTM, those were the powerhouses of the time. And Yamaha was just a little bit behind that. I think their engine design wasn't really, it didn't really help much for power. It was a struggle. And even the Yamaha privateer teams, their bikes were substantially better than our bike was that year. So Langston was in the championship battle, and James had gotten hurt. So it put Langston, Tim Ferry, Andrew Short, and I think Michael Essie were all in this really tight battle in the '07 450 championship. And I begged him to let me ride a 450 and see if I could, put myself in between him and his championship rivals. And I was able to do that. And then after that, I just did everything in my power to not ever get on a 250F again.
Wow, I didn't know that you had begged during that to try and help out Grant, and that's what you used to get to the 450. But a lot of people think of Yamahas and they think of that really fast motor, and they have this reputation. But you were riding a bike. I'll be honest with you, the Yamahas were turds back then. That was before they flipped the motor around, and everybody was like, "Dude, that bike sucks."
Yeah, in the beginning they were tough. I think it was a 5 valve engine, and it was really tough to get power out of them. Star Racing was doing some stuff, and they were running them to the absolute limit the whole time that they had that motorcycle with the Ford engine. And then I think it was 2014 they switched to the reverse engine on the 250, and then after that it was just that was the powerhouse of the division, and it's been that way ever since. I mean, those even the privateer Yamaha, like a Club MX bike, is pretty good, with Twisted Development helping out. And then, you got the factory stuff and it's Star Racing and those bikes. I mean, you want to be on a Yamaha if you're in the 250 class right now.
Yeah. So? And then 2008, you race outdoors, you do really well. You probably want to stay on the 450, but they moved you back down to the 250 for Supercross, right?
No, I was 450 Supercross. I never rode a 250 again. I went straight into Anaheim 1 on a 450, almost won the first heat race of the year. Chad passed me with like 2 corners to go, and I was kicking myself because I didn't even realize it had been the white flag. It was one of those like kind of muddy but not muddy races, it was one of those. So yeah, it was good. And then I got on the podium at my third race, Anaheim 2. I got second behind Chad, and then from then on, I had a really good year. That first year was rookie of the year, got fifth in the championship, had a win, and I think 3 second places, won a bunch of heat races, and I was just 18 years old in the 450 class at that point. So yeah, I mean, it started off pretty good. I mean, I think I didn't miss any races with injury. I was there every weekend. I was a bit inconsistent. I think for me at that time, I knew that I was pretty good, and on my good days, I'd really just try to make them my good days, and on my bad days, I wasn't taking dumb risks to try to make them mediocre days. So I think I could have been better in that aspect, but yeah, it was still pretty solid first couple of years.
Well, there's not a lot of human beings who've won a 450 main event. And the fact that you were able to do that in your rookie season and the guys on the podium with you, I mean, you had Dungy. You beat Dungy straight up that night. That's the kind of talent that you had. And that's why it was kind of strange. And I don't know, it's kind of weird how you kind of had a downswing after that with Yamaha. And a lot of people were talking about maybe you were partying. And then I think you and J-Law flipped a car or something. How did all that take part?
So I didn't flip the car with J Law. I wasn't there, but I showed up to the scene. Like I just flown in from the airport, and I had a buddy that drove my motor home, and he was already parked. So I just got in a rental car and went to the track. And right as the carnage from that was happening, but then the next night I was at a pit bike. They had a pit bike race, and it was like 100 and something degrees out, and somebody offered me a beer, and I was thirsty. I was like, I'll take a beer. I was 18 at the time. And I got busted by an undercover Texas Ranger that I'm pretty sure was with the guy that handed me the beer.
Oh,
And anyways, so it was just a whole kind of ordeal over nothing. But it definitely it wasn't a good look for me at that point in my career. So, Yamaha took it super serious and, put me on like a 15-week drug test, or it was something like that, and find me a bunch of money. But I was happy to comply with everything they wanted to do. I mean, I loved Yamaha. Yamaha was really good to me, and they were understanding. I mean, Keith McCarty was in charge at that time, and as much as we were probably a headache for him, me and Jason hanging out and doing stuff, I think he sort of enjoyed our antics a little bit. I think he liked to see us having fun and enjoying the sport and doing stuff, but he did also see our potential and wanted to see us maximize it. So, I mean, my time with Yamaha was great. And then, that following year, I ended up in 2009. I had a great off season. I think I got second behind James one night at US Open and was doing good in off season stuff coming in. And then I tore my labrum. I was actually just doing I was breaking in a bike for Brock Hepler or something at an outdoor track on Supercross suspension and just hit a rock that was buried in like kind of the side of the track and crashed in the water lane, and wasn't anything crazy, but the way I came down on my shoulder, I completely tore my labrum, and that was 2 months before the season started. So started a little slow in 2009, got on the podium in Toronto, and then ended up tearing my ankle to shreds on a I was jogging in the hills and stepped on a rock coming down a downhill and like had scrapes on the top of my ankle. Like I twisted it that bad, and just had that year was just a little bit of a struggle with injuries, and kind of had the media wasn't really portraying me in the greatest light, me or Jason at that time. Some of it was founded, some of it wasn't. So then I didn't have much of a deal going to, I had a few offers, but nothing super solid. And I ended up taking, for 2010, a ride with Stan Manuel, L&M. So the Craniacs and Larry Brooks got on that team, was James's teammate. And then that year was battling for the championship. James had gotten hurt at round 2, and I took over the points, or tied for the points lead with Dungy at round 6, I think, or 7. And it was, I was just on the podium every weekend. Didn't win a race that year, but I think I got 5 seconds and a third to start the season off. So, yeah, I mean, it was my time at Yamaha was pretty good. And then had an injury once the series headed east in Atlanta. I broke some ribs and had a concussion that I kind of swept under the rug to try to get, not kill my championship hopes. And unfortunately, I just ended up crashing that next week in practice, hit my head pretty good, crashed that was midweek. And then Daytona, kind of forgot which way the track went, landed on a tough block, smacked my head off the concrete. And it just really took the wind out of my sails of that championship that year. I kept racing. I didn't miss a race through all that. And I kicked myself a little bit and wish I would have just maybe said, okay, not my championship this year, but let me hit the reset button and still, take a couple of weeks off and get ready and, get myself together. But you live and you learn as you get older. And, I think we've put in a lot more emphasis on concussions, the riders, the teams, and even the AMA and Feld, they're all trying to, they don't want to see riders riding hurt, at the end of the day, nobody wants to see that. So steps are being taken to try to make it better, whether they're perfect or not, It is what it is. We're learning.
I poke plenty of holes in their system. It's still kind of a, if you mention it, then you'll sit down. But if you hide it, then they just kind of gradually look the other way. But what's scary is you said you had the one crash, and you think if you had rested and not tried to ride, do you think that your concussion contributed to those next crashes for sure?
Maybe the one that happened midweek, that one was kind of just a fluke. I was first guy on the track at Paula, and Paula used to have a lot of big rocks in it. And the track was tilled, and I was just going wide open down a straightaway in 4th gear and hit a rock and just went straight over the bars. I think the next one at Daytona, I came around the track and forgot which way it went. So that, I think, is, it was like first or second, it was first practice. It was really early on, and smacked my head off the concrete. And I remember being pretty dazed and just thinking, not again. But, you smack your head a couple of times and your decision-making isn't perfect. And I was the only rider on the team, so I really needed to be there. I wanted to be there. The championship still felt within grasp. I just needed somebody else to have a little bit of hard luck. And at that time, Dungy was young and kind of untested and was kind of prone to making mistakes in the beginning part of his career. And then as his career went on, he proved that he was the polar opposite of that. And he was the most, rock solid guy in the field. So, I think all those things contributed to me sticking it out there a little bit more than I should have. And like you said, I mean, the Asterix medical unit can only do so much. When you get concussed, you kind of know, and you also know how to mask that from the correct people. So, if you hit your head hard in practice and you are in a position where you need to be racing, you're going to talk to, oh no, I just hit my back. I ducked the air out of myself. I'm fine. There's things that you can say to mask it from those guys, and it's not their fault. It's us as riders. We got to be a little bit more straightforward on what's going on too.
Well, and I've always said the last person you ask if they've had a head injury is the person who had the head injury. They'll never tell you. You got to look at the impact and see the body language afterward, look at their eyes. But yeah, it's not an exact science. It's really tough. And it's something that I'm glad they're looking at a little bit more, but I wish it would even be looked at closer. But then, so you didn't have an outdoor deal. That was a Supercross only deal, right?
I was Supercross only, and I really wanted to do X Games that year because they had Supercross and X Games, and it was really cool back then. Like X Games at the height, LA was like about as close to being a rock star as you could get in the action sports world. So me, I really wanted to race the race. I'd been training Supercross since the time Supercross got over, all through the summer, and was feeling amazing. And they had speed and style, and they offered if I wanted to get involved in that. And I was like, well, okay. So I started doing some Supermans, and I'm like, I really want a backflip. I'm like, I see guys doing it. I think I can do it. There's no reason these guys aren't more skilled than me. I could do this. That was just my thought process at 20 years old. And so I kept trying to get a bike from the team to go practice, and they were not really on board with it. And then last minute, one day, like a week before the event, they're like, here's your bike if you want to go hit the foam pit. I think kind of thinking I wouldn't pull the trigger on it. And me, I was a prideful, dumb 20-year-old kid and probably told too many people that I was going to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And I was spinning around the foam pit perfect. First one to dirt was fine. The spin was perfect, went a little bit long. And I just kind of brain faded and came into the ramp with a little extra speed and didn't get the pop I was expecting and pulled back. And I probably could have brought it around if I just would have held on to it. But my instinct of the foam pit kind of came into my head of just get rid of the bike so you don't get tackled by it. And I didn't realize how deep I was going. And I pretty much overshot that whole landing with my body, and kind of lucky to be alive on that one. But at the time, it seemed like just a broken femur. 2 months, I'll be back by preseason. I'll be good. And I had a lot of complications in the hospital, and ended up going in surgery. First surgery, they tried to put a rod in my femur. It already broken the same femur before. So they pounded the hole. It didn't work. Long story short, 17 hours in surgery in about the span of, like 30 hours. And my other leg developed compartment syndrome from being elevated the whole time in surgery is the only thing that we can make sense of it, because none of the x-rays or anything showed any problems. So it became a whole new issue with this compartment syndrome. At one point, they were talking about amputating my other leg. And, I had a broken arm and a few other broken bones at the time. So that was a pretty traumatic deal. And, 20 days in the hospital, but then I was in a wheelchair for 6. I couldn't walk at all for, I'd say 9 months after that. So when I had a broken arm and broken leg and broken wrist on this side, I was pretty much in one of those little electrical, drive around my house wheelchairs, and had a hospital bed down in my living room and lived in there for a while. So it was rough, and it took a while for it to set in that, life was going to be different from now on, that I was never going to get feeling in my leg back. And luckily, it was all from the kneecap down. I had no feeling at all. And I was lucky to regain feeling, to around my ankle bone. And then my ankle bone down to my toes is still numb to this day. Like, can't move my toes, you can't feel anything. But I had some really great people around me. Dr. G was one of those guys that was around me when I was going through everything, and just saved me from so many pitfalls of, bad surgeons to, what I needed to do to get off painkillers, and just everything, when to get off them, don't stay. He was just so important to me in my recovery. So yeah, after about 3 years of physical therapy and surgeries and things like that, I got back racing. And Martin Huntington, RCH, those guys looked after me while I was injured and kind of nursed me back to health. Kerry gave me the deal when I was basically still in a wheelchair, knowing my condition. And
that is so cool. And I heard that story, how they went in the hospital. They're like, listen, we're betting on you, and you do what you need to do to get back. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And definitely there was pressure to get back to it. And I came back too early a few times, broke my heel at the first round. I actually showed up to Anaheim a year and a half after the injury, and I was still, couldn't walk. I was on crutches, but I was racing. And Ended up breaking my heel in a first turn pile up in the heat race after qualifying like 20th in practice, which I wasn't happy with then, but looking back was pretty wild to do. And then supposed to come back and broke my elbow at the test track. Just a lot of things, like I was missing shifts because I couldn't feel my leg and just making just weird mistakes that were, because riding a dirt bike was so natural to me. Like it was second nature at that time, as much as I loved to ride, as much as I did it. And then when I lost feeling my foot, I just had a lot to learn, a lot to relearn, just my whole riding, how I could step on my foot pegs. I got just the balance of everything shifting. So it took me really about 3.5 years to finally get to where I was about back to normal, and then catch the progression of everyone else. So that was tough, and got on the podium, won some heat races, won a bunch of overseas Supercross stuff. So that I mean, I was really, blessed. Couldn't believe it. I mean, I would just prayed for years to just be able to walk again. And then when I could walk, is pray I could ride a bicycle again. And, so God never answered any of my prayers immediately when I asked him, but man, my life has been pretty good since, even with all the pain and suffering that's gone on in between.
Let me ask you this. When you went to the X Games, did you have a contract for Yamaha the next year with San Manuel for Supercross, or were you just a free agent going to do it?
So I was a free agent, but I was still in talks with them, and my season was pretty solid, and I'd kind of garnered a lot of attention from other people. So I had other offers from other factory teams coming in, and it was looking really good for me. It couldn't have been worse timing when it happened, because it was right when I was signing my contracts and had offers on the table. So yeah, looking back, if I would have been a bit smarter, I would have been like, hey, you know what? Maybe don't take this risk right this second. Maybe come back next year once you've had 6 months of spinning these things around consistently and you feel comfortable. But I was young and I wanted to be, I thought, okay, I want to win Supercrosses, but I want to be like Travis Pastrana. I want to flip jumps. I want to be that guy that even if I don't win and I'm in third, the crowd is still pumped to see me out there. That was my thinking as a kid. I mean, I just never, when I was young, I didn't have the championship drive I think that some of my competition had. I just had a love of dirt bikes that was way bigger than anybody else around me. So what I was doing for training didn't really always feel like work. I mean, I would ride all the time, do tons of laps, but then I would stay at the track and keep riding and try transfers all day. And then, maybe go hit the gym for like an hour and then once I'm done with that, go ride pit bikes with my buddies until it was dark. I mean, that was my daily life. And then, if I still had, enough people on the phone, maybe we'd go play a game of beer pong afterwards. I lived a great, I mean, I don't think that this generation gets to love their sport as much as I did. I was in had a lot of really cool guys around me, a lot of mentors that were also people that knew how to enjoy life outside of motorcycles. So I've had a lot of ups and downs, but it hasn't all been bad.
Well, and that's the one thing I noticed. I was going through your Instagram and just checking out the photos, even like practice photos. You're throwing like no legs, one hand. You always look like you're having a good time. And that's contagious. It's nice. People want to be around people that are happy and enjoy what they're doing.
I mean, it's the greatest job in the world. I mean, I'm so lucky. I get to ride my dirt bike for a living. Now, riding my dirt bike for a living is more of what I do than racing. Racing has become more of my hobby, and I'm probably more competitive now that I'm outside of my prime than I was when I was in my prime. Like now I noticed, all these little things I do off the bike actually contributing to my program and helping. Where before I rode so much, I did so much stuff, I really didn't get that tired. So when somebody told me to go on a 45-mile road bike ride, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to be more sore tomorrow and get like, I'm not really going to feel that much out of it. So as I get older, I understand the time and the place and kind of honed in on what works for me better as I'm older. And I think that's the only thing keeping me afloat to where I can do all these different things and then show up at a random race and still be competitive. And, some of these European races, I can still vie for wins at, some of these European championship supercrosses and stuff like that. So and those guys are no joke. So I try to just just stay on top of it, stay riding, stay doing what I love, and don't take any of it for granted because I know it can be gone in a second, and that's life of a motocrosser.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I want to ask you too. So Hart and Huntington, they kind of got rocks in. They were trying to go for championships, and I think they let you go at that point, and you went to work for Monster, right?
So they were trying to sign rocks. I wasn't too happy with the power of the motorcycle at that point when I was on RCH and had kind of let that be known. And I was kind of talking about it at the wrong time. And Kenny happened to walk in the semi, and I think that kind of ended my time at RCH right then. But no ill feelings towards them. They gave me an opportunity when no one else would. They gave me such a good opportunity. So I went and raced Canadian outdoor nationals that year for the Kawasaki team, and then the next year I was riding all my off-season stuff for Mitch Payton. Had given me bikes and given me equipment, and we were talking about a 450 ride for Mitch Payton for Supercross. But I needed to come up with some sponsors. I needed to come up with some more money. Some things didn't really come together. And then the last second, Yamaha gave me an offer to kind of run my own program with their support. And so I ended up doing that, and it was doing okay. I got, I think 10th, I think was my best finish that year. So it was definitely a step backwards from where I was at RCH the year before, battling for podiums and top fives all the time. But I ended up getting hurt at Daytona, crashed, concussion, tried to gap two singles that were supposed to be kind of speed check singles and clipped it in practice. It was third gear wide open crash, and I just went straight to my face and tore my collarbone, played off, broke like almost my whole rib cage, punctured a lung, knocked out. And at that time, I was not making the type of money that I wanted to make, and just wasn't cut out for the privateer life yet at that stage. I'd been spoon fed a little bit too much, and all the extra stuff that was going into it with the lack of pay topped with the injury. I just said, this ain't for me anymore. And lucky, Monster Energy had been, such a good sponsor to me, and they had an opening. The guy that was, at my position had got promoted to a different position, and they offered me to come in and run the two-wheel program in the U.S. So hiring riders, working with Feld, working with everybody, as the sponsor of, as Monster, representing Monster. And so that was another just amazing opportunity that I was given, and not only just to land soft landing from quitting racing, but to be with such a cool company that was so, into the things that I liked. And I was able to learn so much in those years working with those guys, just the opposite side of the sport, the corporate side of it. I had a rider's perspective, and then I got a corporate perspective of it, what really kind of makes the sport go around. And it was really good to understand you're not, as a rider, as much as we want to think we've devoted our lives to this, that we're entitled to this compensation. We're entitled to this. And at the end of the day, this sport is a business. And, the sponsors that are paying us and making it so we can chase our dreams and love all this stuff, there's things that we need to do to make them happy as well. So finding, being both sides of it, I felt like it was a really good opportunity for me. I helped kind of maybe bridge the gap a little bit with some of the riders and some of the things that they had, ideas for where they wanted to take the sport. And luckily Monster was really cool and was open to these ideas. And, my time there, I was able to, bring Axel in, from Axel being just he was a great amateur talent. When his last year in the pros and amateurs, he didn't quite make the jump that the factory teams needed to see to sponsor him, and he was going to be maybe left without a ride and trying to race. And we looked at him and how talented he is and his creativity. And I've known his brother for a long time. He worked in there as well at Monster, and we got him on board. We kind of created a new lane for some of these content creation in motocross. In the early days, you had Seth Enslow and you had Sync Mars and those guys, and they were getting paid to do video parts. But when the VHS video sales went down and the internet came out, there was kind of a gap there for people to just express themselves on two wheels. And working with some of the freestyle team and some of the guys, we were able to kind of create that lane. And then eventually, after I'd been there for 3 years, and they knew how much I liked being involved in these productions, and seen that I still had the skill that was very top tier level. And they just, Dave Gallen at Monster said, "Hey, we know you love riding. Do you want to keep riding? Do you want to chase this? Do you want to see what you can do, or do you want to stay here?" And I was like, man, that's how could I turn down just going and going racing overseas, doing random races, doing video projects, chasing my dreams out with the support of a sponsor. So that was really the reason I came back to racing. I didn't know how much I missed it until I was given that opportunity, because I tried to just block it out of my mind, and you've raced, you've ridden your whole life. And when you don't get to do that anymore, you get a little bit of a hole in you that's hard to fill.
I call it the death of your career. It's like a lot of people talk about it as when you lose your sport or something. It's like you die without dying. You have to re-find yourself completely. It's hard. It's tough, no matter what level you're on.
Yeah. So for me, I thought my career had died. I thought I was done. I'd kind of given up on it, stopped taking myself really seriously in any fashion, put on some weight, probably busted over the 200 mark. And for my height, that's probably not too healthy, but started, once I got that opportunity again, I just ran with it. And then, Fox came into the play, and Mountain Motorsports. And I've had a bunch of other great partners that have seen the vision and support it. And that is, it's made my life so fun. And with World Supercross, getting to travel the whole world racing, Australian Supercross, all these different events. I mean, the second swing of my career, I got some accolades to hang my hat on from the earlier days, but the tail end of my career has been an absolute blast, and I've got to enjoy it more than most.
I gotta ask you about this one thing at Monster that was very famous. Steve Matthes, a guy I really don't like, but I love that you threw him out of a Monster party. How did that go down?
I didn't really throw him out. I seen him in line. I was we were actually really low on wristbands. We didn't print enough wristbands for that event. We had somebody new helping out, and I didn't have any to give to my people. And I was kept going back and forth from taking people up to the party area, because there's kind of a VIP area for the Monster people, and running back and forth, getting athletes and team staff all night. And I seen Matthes, and I seen him a couple of times, and then seen him at the front of the line. And I just kind of asked him, he had said some things that they were just kind of poor taste in my opinion about Monster and the company and their employees. And I just asked him, I thought it was kind of strange to see him there wanting to, kind of party with us degenerates. So that was about it. I kind of confronted him a little bit about it, and he didn't like the direction the talk was going, and ended up leaving. And I seen that he tweeted that I kicked him out, but I think maybe he didn't think there was any talking to me. Maybe he thought it was more concerning than it was. But Steve's been an opinionated journalist. He's made his living on being controversial and saying things that, maybe aren't always agreeable, and breaking news quick. And honestly, I got to commend him for the job that he's done and what he's built, and whether I see eye to eye with him always, I don't. I think he's doing a really great thing for the privateers. And even I was able to capitalize on that last year. And honestly, I would have took a hit and probably lost money on my Supercross, races that I went to last year. And him having that event, and me just making just qualifying into that event, I mean, that made my whole endeavor, worth doing. So, really, if I see Steve, we have no problems, man. I mean, we're what it is. We're all opinionated in this sport, and we've all got our own lanes and things that work for us. And we all got our teams, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I wasn't trying to get you to just blow out Steve, or maybe I was. I don't know. I don't like it. But no, I mean, what he said about what you guys at Monster, he said you guys are all doing blow in a meeting, and then he tries to go to your party. Like, come on, man. If you're going to say stuff like that, and now you want to go get free drinks from him, you guys had every right to bounce him. I was hoping you'd say, like, the bouncers threw him out on his head or something like that, but nothing good. You just politely asked him to leave. No big deal.
It might not have been super polite, but it just at that time I felt that it needed to be said, but whether it did or didn't. But anyways, that's the past. I don't like to have problems with. I really just don't like to have problems with anybody. This sport's too small, and to be honest, even if we have differences, you get time to actually just spend around anybody that could be your nemesis in this sport, and they're usually not as bad as you think they are. I mean, we got a lot of great people, but this is a passionate sport. People get injured. A lot of gnarly things happen, so emotions flare.
100%. Yes. Yeah. But it's funny. You and your brother do have this attitude where you guys just seem to get along with everybody. I don't know how you could not like the Hill. I've never heard anyone say, oh, they're such dicks. Like, yeah, you guys are a different breed. And I know you guys always take extra time with the fans. When I walked by Team Tedder when you guys were there, man, you guys were always out interacting. Where did that come from?
I just think, my parents they wanted us to be good kids before we were dirt bikers. I mean, that was more important to them. My dad said that all the time. He goes, I don't care if you're good. I ain't raising no punk kid. Like that was how he always told me. And just I think it's easier to go through life, with not making a ton of enemies as much as you can. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't like me out there, and there's a few people that might not be my favorite person. But at the end of the day, I think we can all talk about it for the most part, and we're all lucky to share this space. I mean, it seems like a massive sport, and there's a lot of followers, but it really isn't that big.
Go through life without making enemies. I wish I would have learned that one a long time ago. I still haven't learned it, dude.
Hey, I make them and I try to fix it. If being, what do you call it? Just being proud and egotistical has never got me anywhere. It just really hasn't. So I'll say things that I put my foot in my mouth all the time, but if I can, I'll try to fix it. That's
me.
Admit I'm wrong.
I'll put my foot in my mouth, but I'll also own it when I do, and so be it. If somebody can't get over it when I own it, then I apologize, but it is what it is. So, Big Hill Jam, what are we doing? Is there going to be are you going to do like a 300-foot jump? Like, what's going on that whole weekend?
So we kick it off Friday. We have a big pit bike race. Faster Minis put up $5,000 for the pit bike purse. They've done that every year we've had the event, and that's been awesome. We get a lot of, about as top level as it gets in pit bikes is what goes on here. So we try to build a track that's, not just your everyday track. I try to make Supercross obstacles that are to scale for a pit bike. So this year will be a little bit tamer, a little bit nicer to the people, because I'm only building one Supercross section and then a couple motocross sections. So it'll be more fun, and then we'll have e-bikes as well. So like Surons, anything that's like Suron sized. We call it the mid-size e-bike class. We'll have that, and for the pro class, we'll have a minimum of 100% payback. We had a sponsor drop out of that one because we had a big purse planned, but we'll try to keep adding to that stuff as it comes in. Then we've got the best whip contest, where we get pretty much all the best guys on the planet to show up. Anybody that's available and isn't injured, they usually come. We try to put up the biggest purse we can for that. The last few years, it's been $20,000, and Aaron Plessinger has actually been a huge contributor to that every year. He comes in the final hour and bumps the purse, and I know all the freestyle guys really appreciate him for that. And then this year, we're going to have on Sunday, we're going to have an amateur race on the MX track, Albany Motocross Park. For anybody that isn't familiar, this place has been here since well before I was born. The family that owns it has just done the best job to make it insane track, but also really family friendly atmosphere with it's got the most accommodations of any track around. And they've allowed me to do this here, and they've let me turn the whole place into a compound. So I've got pro lanes for the pro sections, for the Mountain Motorsports All-Stroke National, the open pro class. There's some sections out there that are pretty serious. Then the amateurs will just go around, like the course is kind of just plugged to go around those sections for the amateurs. But they'll still get a good course. I'm thinking they'll probably have around a minute 20 minimum lap time for those guys. And then the pro class, so they'll probably be around a minute 30 on average. And then the pro class will probably be around a minute 40, I would assume, on the lap time. Kind of just like a SMX track, but the way I would love to see an SMX track built, I guess.
I can't wait. I think I'm going to try and come out, but I don't know if I can come for the whole weekend. So the best whip is Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't make all 3 days and you're not riding, definitely just Saturday afternoon into Sunday, you're going to get a lot of action. If you love pit bikes, Friday night's really, really good. I mean, pit bike, you have crews, right? Pit bike crew thinks that the pit bike race is the best part of the whole event, and they could be right. And then the freestyle guys think Saturday night's the best. And I think this year on the racing side, we're going to be putting a lot of emphasis on this amateur race and the pro side of things, making sure the track is dialed. The Leach family that runs these races, the amount of experience they have with it is yeah, I put them up against just about anybody. So I think we're going to have a top-notch race.
It's on 4th of July weekend. Are there any fireworks?
We're trying to get some. Oregon's not very lenient on fireworks, so
That's
we're
right. I
trying to
forgot how
figure.
liberal you guys are.
Yeah, yeah, in the cities for sure. But we're trying to figure it out on the fireworks side. We're gonna have live music both nights. So got a couple of bands lined up. The Athearchists who've been at every Oregon Hill Jam. They're a metal band and they're all race riders as well. So we're trying to get the best level of talent we can get on the music side that has dirt bike in their blood. You know, that's
Oh,
kind of what makes it fun. So yeah, the Athearchists, they've been out here riding since the 90s. And they're killer dudes. They had also the Bleeding Frogs. So if you watch Rob and Big or Fantasy Factory, Rob Dyrdek teamed up with them to create a street band where they would drive around in their mobile stage and just play shows in like Hollywood and all over. So I mean these guys they're amazing energy live. It's a good time.
dude, this sounds like a good time. It sounds like 90s motocross reincarnated. I love it. Hey, have you ever tried Nano Extreme?
So yeah, I did. Thanks to you. I broke ribs at the I think it was the final round of the Redline Oil Arena Cross. So I just did a bunch of different arena crosses this year, and at the Redline Oil Arena Cross, I broke my ribs in the final round. Still able to race. I think I got third or fourth in that main. The next week was the final of the AMA Kicker Arena Cross series, and Stark was involved, and I was contracted to go to that final race. Now, my ribs were hurting, but I went out and practiced, set fastest time in qualifying, felt pretty good. And the heat race, I took a bar to the side, and I laid in the track for 2 laps. I couldn't get my breath back because fresh broken ribs and hitting them isn't fun. And my brother, I guess, ran into you, and
Yeah,
he
I
comes up to
remember.
me, he goes, I was telling him like, oh, I'm hurting. He's all, oh, hey, the Cooksey gave me some Nano Extreme pain cream. He's all, try this out, and I put it on. And no joke, when it happened, I didn't know if I was going to be able to race, and I put the cream on, and the pains subsided enough for me to go out, and I ended up winning the main, and that was pretty cool. And you know, ribs are pretty painful, and it put me at ease. And I'm not going to say, oh, it cured me. I was 100% fixed, but it took the edge off enough to where I was able to go out there and get the job done.
That's
And
awesome. All right.
so, hey, thank you for that, by the way.
Oh yeah, any guest that comes on, I'm gonna have them send you a big dog, like a 32 ouncer, or I don't know if your brother needs more. Let me know. I'll hook him up too. So appreciate
I'll
that.
rub it on. Actually, one of the guys here at the track was just saying I told him I tweaked my back a little bit the other day. I overshot that jump and just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting old. It twisted my back a little bit. He's like, I got this Nano Extreme cream my son got me for my birthday. He's like, I can bring it over. I was like, really? I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works
So
pretty good. Hey, what's something that somebody might not know about you? Just we've watched your career. What's something you want people to know about you that they might not know?
and I'm pretty transparent, I think, with all my social media stuff right now. There's really not much more to me than what I show. I mean, I guess I probably work a lot harder than I've always showed on social media stuff. Like I just when I was young and I seen people posting all their training rides and their gym workouts and them suffering on their social media, and I just always had the thought of, why are you doing that? This is the social media is to show the fun stuff you're doing. I don't want to I'm not coming on here to get the YMEs or try to garner support of my. I'm just having fun with this. I want to show you what I want to look at when I get on social media. So I guess that's maybe that. I don't know. I mean, we bust our butts. Me and my whole family, anybody that the big Hill Jam crew, if you come out to one of these events and see us, cut us some slack. We're cutting corners on paying the staff and support to try to pay these riders, and they all know it going in, and they still love it to the point where they give us, some of these guys working, helping out. They put in the work of 3 people on these weekends, and yeah, I just got to commend those guys for all their help.
Good stuff, my man. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll maybe I'll see you at the Big Hill Jam. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Come on out, man. We'd love to have you. It's a good time.